Dun 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 dun. Ooh, a bit of wind in this room. Sorry, I do apologise. Anyway, hello everyone, and welcome to this reflection on the other Pink Panther films, or the crap ones, minus Inspector Clouseau. Oh fuck. I don't know where to begin. So yeah, because I'll just say we did a we did a reflection on the good movies and Inspector Clouseau last time, about a week ago, or almost a week ago. I can't remember when it was. And yeah, we did the original film, Shot in the Dark, Inspector Clouseau, Return of the Pink Panther, The Pink Panther Strikes Again, and Revenge of the Pink Panther. So yeah, today we are back to talk about the crap fests that, for some reason, made Blake Edwards want to continue this franchise, and then obviously reboot it with Steve Martin. So we've got Curse of the Pink Panther, Son of the Pink Panther, and Trail of the Pink Panther as well. Sorry, and then the two Steve Martin movies. So, yeah, we might as well let her rip because we're going to get assaulted tonight, and not in a good way. So let's begin with technically the end of the Peter Sellers movies, but it's not. It's complicated. So, Jackie, would you like to tell us why you love the Trail of the Pink Panther?
Yeah, and while I'm at it, I'll also tell you when I've been to the moon. Yeah. Can I drink out once again?
Cheers! Oh, the endless trail.
Yeah, Trail of the Pink Panther. Yeah, they may as well call it Trial of the Pink Panther or Trial of the Time Lord Law.
Snail of the Pink Panther.
Yeah. Fail of the Pink Panther. But yeah. Yeah, Trail of the Pink Panther. Well, this film was made about 2 years after Sellers passed away in 1982. So it was a 4-year gap between Revenge and this film. And this film tries to incorporate Peter Sellers through deleted scenes. And Blake Edwards tries to stitch a story together out of that. And essentially the story is Clouseau boards a plane and he goes missing, and Joanna Lumley is hired as this
don't make excuses. There is no story.
Yeah. She's hired as this reporter to find Clouseau, but yeah, Trail of the Pink Panther. This movie fucking sucks. Yeah, I mean,
preach it, baby, preach it. Yeah,
yeah. No fucking surprise here. Trail of the Pink Panther. Oh god, and I thought Inspector Clouseau was going to be the one and only crap film in this franchise, but Blake Edwards decided, you know what? I'm going to try and continue this on and make it the comedic answer to James Bond. Well, didn't work out for you, Blake, did it? And
rest in peace, Sellers. Rest in peace. He would be spitting in the grave. It's an insult.
Yeah, it really is an insult. I mean, the beginning of this, I'm not really a fan of. Like the title sequence, it's not my favorite. Like you got Clouseau and the Pink Panther is like Pac-Man, which I thought was weird, and the music I think is fine. The soundtrack's good by Henry Mancini, but the beginning of this is so stupid. Like they have them steal the Pink Panther diamond once again, but here they just do it in such a shoddy way. Like literally, this burglar, all he does is cut a hole in the ground. He comes in, takes a diamond, and that's it. It's like, really? What about, Return of the Pink Panther, where you had to go through all these elaborate traps? You had to spray for lasers. You had to, make sure to, to get that diamond in a, it took some effort. Here it's just like, no, we'll just, cut a hole in the ground and take it. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. And, I don't know what it is with Blake Edwards, but his direction here just feels really tired. I mean, the franchise without Sellers, it just doesn't work, Trying to continue on the Pink Panther without Peter Sellers, it's like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, he made those films. Peter Sellers made those films so great, like Return of the Pink Panther, Shot in the Dark, Pink Panther Strikes Again. All those great films. And here, you're trying to continue it on without him. And I mean, one thing I will say is, I mean, the deleted scenes that they have in here, I do, they are quite amusing. I do like some of the deleted scenes in here. Like there's that one scene with Cluso's in his office and he's lighting up his pipe and he gets the ashes on the floor and it goes on fire and he basically sets the whole room on fire and the sprinklers are set off. So I mean, the deleted scenes that they got here from Strikes Again and stuff, I mean, they are funny, but at the same time, it's like well, Peter Sellers is dead, so don't try and pretend to us, Blake Edwards, that Clouseau is still around, and it just doesn't work. I mean, there is one scene they actually, they didn't even bother checking the continuity with this film because there's one scene they just reuse from Strikes Again where Clouseau's like, "Oh, I'm singing in the rice, just singing in the rice," when he knocks the groceries over and there's like all that rice coming from the groceries and it's just like Blake Edwards, you use that in Pink Panther Strikes Again, that clip, and you're reusing it here. It's like, did he even bother to rewatch Strikes Again or check the continuity of this film? It's terrible. And I mean, the scenes in here, like I said, I mean, they are quite funny. I mean, there's that whole scene where Clouseau, he goes to that place. He's like, "Oh, do you have the massage?" He's like, "What massage?" He's like, "Oh, message. You mean message?" He's like, "Yes." The fuck?
I was fake laughing because it was such a
Alright.
funny joke.
Well, I thought it was funny, but anyway, I mean, that was a good deleted scene from the older films. But there's that bit where he's in the room and he's holding onto the phone, and the woman keeps opening the door, and he keeps falling out the window and holding onto the phone. So there's some like good comedic scenes here that you've got from the other films, and there's that bit where he's in the bandages or whatever, and he goes into the toilet and he's trying to go to the toilet. So I mean, there are some funny scenes, and the bit where he's in the car and he's like, "Oh, the pop-out lighter, the pop-out lighter is refusing to pop out," and it blows up the car. So I mean, the scenes of Peter Sellers in this I do enjoy, but at the same time, it's like Blake Edwards, these are just you're trying to make Peter Sellers appear as though that Clouseau is still alive. Peter Sellers is still alive in this film, and it just it doesn't work really. It doesn't work, and once Clouseau goes missing on the plane, the film just becomes a clip show. Like they just show clips from the older Pink Panther films, like a Pink Panther and a Shot in the Dark and stuff like that. I mean, you've got the character of Hercule from A Shot in the Dark. He makes a cameo. He makes a return. Like she goes to interview him, and she interviews other characters from the previous Pink Panther films. Like you got the return of David Niven, which is appreciated, although he's dubbed here by Rich Little. And you've got Capucine and stuff like that. And I mean, the film, after all those scenes with Clouseau are over, and you got that whole the stuff with Joanna Lumley, the film just comes to a screeching halt. Like it just becomes a fucking drag to sit through. And I mean, Herbert Lom, I mean, he's trying in this film, and there is some funny stuff about him and his blood pressure, but he just again, it's like Blake Edwards,
Like, what was the point of that scene when he was jumping into the Jello? Like, what the fuck?
yeah, that nightmare scene that was weird. Yeah, where he's like, he jumps into the pool and it's Jello's a nightmare. that was just kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. The film is just so boring. Like every time I watched it, I really struggled to stay awake, for the rest of the film because I mean, Joanna Lumley, like she's all right, but I mean, her French accent isn't great, and it becomes a clip show. It's just like, oh, it's just characters reminiscing about Clouseau, and then they cut to a clip from A Shot in the Dark, or they cut to a clip from the Pink Panther, or something like that, and it's like. I've seen these films before. If I want to watch A Shot in the Dark, I've got the DVD. I'll watch it. If I want to watch, the Pink Panther, I've got the DVD. I've watched, I'll watch it. I don't need these fucking clips that they recycle here. And it's like Blake Edwards. It's like the guy who wrote, I think it was Blake Edwards and someone else who wrote this. But I mean, they're so desperately trying to come up with a story here, and they have no story really. So they're just like, oh well, let's just reuse clips from other films, and just becomes so boring. And you've got that stuff as well with Clouseau's father, and oh my god, like all the stuff with Clouseau's father in this, I just think it's so unfunny. I mean, the actor who plays him, he does a decent job, but there's that whole scene as well where they go to Clouseau's, father's house, and he's like at this vineyard, and oh god, there's actually a woman topless there, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, Blake Edwards? I thought this was like a family-friendly comedy series, and you got these like, you got this girl for, you can see her breasts, and she's like, mashing up the grapes or whatever in the vineyard for feet, I mean, the film is just like, what the fuck is going on here? And I don't really like the idea of Clouseau, getting, his idiocy, his clumsiness from his genes, I thought that was really, stupid. I thought that was dumb. I just like the idea that Clouseau is just naturally a buffoon, a moron, and, like some of the comedy here is just terrible. Like there's that scene in the film, I just don't think it's funny at all, where you've got this old lady and like Clouseau's dad, that he's getting the dog to like fuck around with her, and she's trying to get this axe to kill the dog or whatever, and she's really slow moving with the axe, and it's like, is this supposed to be funny? Because it's not. It's just fucking dreadful. And I mean, the whole film is pretty dreadful. I mean, and I mean, they also have Kato back here for no reason. They bring back Kato, and there's that fight scene between Kato and Joanna Lumley's character, where Kato attacks her, and it's just disturbing. It's just really disturbing, like the way they shoot it in the house and the music, and it's all done in shadow, and it's just crap. It's just terrible. And you got Robert Loggia in this film as well. He was in Revenge of the Pink Panther, and he plays one of the gangsters, and he's not bad. But I mean, again, the comedy isn't funny. That he's like, "Oh, you got a great ass." He says that to Joanna Lumley, and it's like it's not funny. And you also have flashbacks to Clouseau's childhood. Like they film new footage of like Clouseau's childhood, and there's that scene in the prom where the parents are there and Clouseau's pissing out of the prom. It's like, this is just terrible. This is not funny. I mean, there is one funny sequence where you see Clouseau in the French Resistance when he's younger, and he's got these bombs, these dynamite on the bridge, and he's going to blow up the Nazis, and he can't get the plunger to go down to blow up the bridge, and once the bridge is, once all the Nazis have gone past the bridge, he goes over to the bridge, and the plunger falls down and blows up. That was kind of funny, but I mean, the film is just it's completely unnecessary. I mean, I don't know what Blake Edwards was trying to do. Like, I mean, one thing I will say it's nice is in the beginning credits it says, to Peter, the one and only Inspector Clouseau, and I agree with that statement. And originally MGM wanted to replace Peter Sellers with another actor playing Clouseau, and I think the reason Blake Edwards didn't do that was because he probably saw the film with Alan Arkin and realized that only one person can play Clouseau, and that's Peter Sellers, and he probably didn't want to disrespect his memory so soon afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I think the ending of this is just crap. The ending of the film where it's like, oh, it looks like we'll never find out what happened to Clouseau, and then you got someone impersonating Clouseau at the end. Some guy in a coat and a hat, and a seagull shits on him. And it's supposed to be Clouseau, and he's like, "Oh, swine bird," and that's the end of the film. And yeah, I mean, Trail of the Pink Panther. I mean, what more can I say? The film is fucking crap. The only scenes I really like in it are the deleted scenes of Peter Sellers and maybe a couple of scenes of Dreyfus, and the flashback to Clouseau and the French Resistance was kind of funny. But apart from that, the film, it's just boring as fuck. It's not funny. All the stuff about Peter Sellers in the film is just pointless. I mean, I said this in my original review, those deleted scenes that you use from Strikes Again, I mean, they may as well just put them in an extended cut of the Pink Panther Strikes Again, you know, because I mean, you know, there's a lot of footage that they shot for Strikes Again that they never used, and you may as well just to put it in an extended cut because, you know, putting it in this film and then trying to stitch the story together that Clouseau's still out there and all this bollocks, you know, it's just like, well, fuck that, you
Yeah.
know, fuck, you know, fuck it.
I mean, to be honest, if they wanted to honor his memory, they could have just done that. Re-release the old movies with extended editions in the cinemas, rather than do this film. But yeah, I guess whatever. I guess it was meant to be a final tribute, but at the same time, there's a reason that these scenes are deleted because they don't work. So trying to force them to work is, yeah, it's a bit of a tall order, really.
I mean, the deleted scenes I quite enjoyed, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you should just put them in. You should put them in an extended cut. Yeah. You should put them in an extended cut of Strikes Again because narratively it just doesn't work. Because, like I said, everybody knows by this point that Peter Sellers is dead. He was dead, you know, nearly 2 years by this point, and it just, you know, it really pisses me off, really. And yeah, I mean, Lynn Frederick, Peter Sellers' wife, actually sued Blake Edwards and the studio for ruining her husband's reputation with this film, and I can't blame them. I mean, this film's just terrible, and it bombed at the box office, and I'm glad it did. And but
rightfully so.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you know, Blake Edwards didn't take the fucking hint because after this he made Curse and Son. But yeah, I mean, you know, sort of to close off now, an overall score, I give this a 3 out of 10. So yeah. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Ollie now, but yeah.
Oh, fuck me. I just want to say before I begin, Peter Sellers, you are an amazing Inspector Clouseau. You are the only Inspector Clouseau in my mind, and I feel so sorry for you that you were mistreated with this. I understand Blake Edwards' intentions, and I know it was intended to be a homage and a tribute, but making a film out of deleted scenes, this makes this movie one of the weirdest movies ever made. It's just the whole concept of the whole genesis of how this movie came about is just weird, and it's terrible. There's no surprise that it's terrible because you're trying to force these deleted scenes to work together, and it doesn't work. You know, they're good individual scenes, I suppose, but like Jack said, include them in extended editions or don't include them. Why not just make a documentary about the life of Peter Sellers and his acting career, or specifically him as Clouseau, and release that in the cinema? That would have been amazing, but no. We get this. I do appreciate the message at the start to Sellers, and also the final. I guess there's sort of bloopers or outtakes, or actually no, they're images from the other movies in the credits.
Yeah.
That was appreciated, but it doesn't make up for this movie. This movie is a mess, and it's really insulting to Peter Sellers' memory. It really is, and I don't blame his wife for suing Edwards. Again, I respect that Edwards had the best of intentions, but his intentions were misplaced. And to be perfectly honest, he should have thought about what he was doing and just scrapped the whole thing entirely. When you lose the key ingredient that makes your film successful, it's kind of pointless to carry on. It's a bit like Pirates of the Caribbean. Without Johnny Depp, there's just no point, because whether you like him or not, he's the reason they're successful. The same is for Inspector Clouseau. And I just don't think Trail of the Pink Panther is necessary. It's a totally boring, unnecessary movie. It's one of the most convoluted movies ever made. It's just the narrative makes no sense, and the fact that it's compiled with deleted scenes, and most of these are used as flashbacks, which I suppose is quite an ingenious idea when you think about it. But like from a narrative point of view, they did try to make use of these deleted scenes by having them as flashbacks, but at the same time, you're just forcing it too much. I feel so sorry for the editor of this movie. To be fair, I actually do commend the editing quite a lot, because just try and stitch a film together out of mostly out of deleted scenes. But obviously they filmed stuff. It's not all deleted scenes, but at the same time, you know, I can't really make sense of the story. But it's not the editor's fault. It's the script and the storytelling. It's just all over the place. It's just such an incoherent mess. And I mean, some of the deleted scenes are funny. I won't say all of them are bad, but there's a reason why you cut these things out. And I look at some of these scenes and I just think, yeah, I can kind of see why this was removed, because it just doesn't work. Not every comedic thing that you throw on the screen is going to work. That's just not true. And as for the cast, well, I mean, they try, but it does feel like a clip show. It basically feels like a clip show. Joanna Lumley, bless her, she's a good actress, but I don't think she has any place in this film, really. I mean, and her French accent is just all over the place. I don't understand what the fuck that was. I couldn't hear a word she was saying. She's no Peter Sellers. She can't carry this movie. And like you say, her fight with Kato, it's just kind of embarrassing, really. I mean, at least Kato was in it and Dreyfus was in it. I mean, when they're there, they're good, I suppose. And David Niven and Capucine coming back is nice, but a few cameos can't save this movie. It's just terrible. And I don't really rate the music or the title sequence either. This is one too many. Like, the Revenge of the Pink Panther should have been the last movie. And I don't think any of the movies after this make up for Trail. I think this was the beginning of the end of the Pink Panther franchise. I mean, as soon as Sellers passed away, that was it. There was no point. I mean, obviously, if they were gonna, if Sellers was gonna survive, then they would have made Romance of the Pink Panther, which is a shame that we never got that. But everything happens for a reason, of course. I just think Trail sucks. It's not it's not the worst of the franchise. So I suppose that's the biggest compliment I can pay it, is that it's not the worst of the series, but it is down there. It is shit, and it's not quite as bad as Inspector Clouseau for me, because it's not. It didn't anger me as much. Well, I mean, it did anger me, but I thought that it wasn't as over the top. So I suppose for that reason, I take it over. I take it over Inspector Clouseau, and also seeing Sellers on screen, is nice. But it was a waste. It was a total waste of time. It was pointless. I score this movie a 2 out of 10. Literally, there's a couple of funny scenes, and like Jack said, that ending is fucking stupid. When we see Clouseau on top of the cliff, and then the bird shits on him, or whatever. It's just a pointless ending. It's like the whole story is about them trying to find him, and then, like, why is he on this hill? Like, where's he gone? Like, it's never explained why he left and whatever. They needed some kind of excuse, but whatever. I'm done trying to work out the plot for this movie, so I will just end it there and say, yeah, I give this movie a 2 out of 10. But unfortunately, that's not the end of the series. I'd love to say it was, but we now move on to Curse of the Pink Panther, not starring Peter Sellers. Oh God. Okay, I will hand this over to Jack. What do you think of Curse of the Pink Panther, the very appropriately titled Curse of the Pink Panther?
Well, as I said in my rant, this movie is a fucking curse. I'm getting out the drink again.
You earned it, bud.
Yeah, Curse of the Pink Panther. Yeah, Curse of the Pink Panther. Well, yeah, this film is another crap fest from Blake Edwards. I will say this: I think it's a wafer thin improvement over Trail, but even then, that's not really. It's not saying much. Curse is just, oh God, it's crap. I mean, Curse. What they try to do with this film is they're trying to relaunch the series. They got Ted Wass here as Detective Clifton Slay, and the story for this one is kind of odd. Like, they're trying to find Clouseau, so they hire the world's best detective. But Dreyfus, he reprograms the computer to find the world's worst detective to go after Clouseau. So we get Ted Wass as Clifton Slay, and he's essentially an American version of Clouseau. And Ted Wass, he's likable, he gives a good performance, but he's just an American version of Clouseau. That's all he is. He's just a bumbling idiot. I mean, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Clark Kent from the Superman films because he's got that sort of slick back hair and those glasses and that suit that he's wearing. And Ted Wass, I appreciate what he's trying to do this film, and I don't really blame him. I blame Blake Edwards, but again, without Peter Sellers, this franchise is just dead. This is a fucking dead duck. This is a dead franchise, and Curse. I mean, I just think it's pretty crap. I mean, I will admit there are a few funny scenes in here. Like I did like that gag of Dreyfus, where he keeps falling out the window. Like there's that bit where he gets the hose into because Dreyfus he lights the real evidence of who Clouseau's identity is on fire, and then it starts to light up the whole office. So Clifton Slay gets the hose, and he he shoots him out the window, and when he first meets him, he trips and pushes him out the window. So that was kind of funny, and Herbert Lom is trying here as Dreyfus. He is really trying, but the film around surrounding him is just shit. I mean, I do appreciate some things they did in this film. Like, I like the fact they brought back Mr. Chong from Revenge of the Pink Panther. That was nice that they brought him back. And there's that bit, it is kind of funny at the start, where he hits the stone and the stone doesn't break. But when he comes out of the dojo, the whole dojo splits in half from the pure power of his karate chop. That was kind of funny. But, the film is just really boring. Not much going on here. There's that stupid sequence where he's got that blow up doll, and he's pretending that it's his girlfriend. It's like, how does nobody know that is not a blow up doll? And there's that stupid scene where he's in his hotel and these guys come in and the gas is on in his room and they shoot, and his room blows up and he's hanging on by the telephone or something like that, and it's just not funny. And there's some other stuff in here that isn't funny, like the whole beginning of the film where you got Clifton Slay dressed up in drag, and there's that there's that fight in the street with this other prostitute, and he's going undercover as dressed in drag or whatever, and it's not funny. And again, you could tell that they're missing Peter Sellers in this film because they keep referencing Clouseau, and there's even a museum to Clouseau that Kato has opened up in Clouseau's apartment, and you've got like disguises and waxworks of Clouseau from previous films like Revenge and Pink Panther Strikes Again and all that stuff. And while it's appreciated, it's like this franchise just isn't working without Peter Sellers. And I don't know why they brought back Burt Walk again. Here's Kato again. He just doesn't do anything here. Just like Trail, like he has that fight scene with Clifton Slay, which is shit. And he's just like, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything in this film, and the movie itself just fucking drags. I mean, there's that whole scene where he's in that restaurant or whatever it is, and he meets that girl, and later on he's gonna get it on with her, and then she gets knocked out by some sleeping dart or whatever, and the movie just drags. It just fucking drags. I mean, there is an interesting, kind of funny, amusing scene where you got Dreyfus on a cliff and he's got a rocket launcher and he's trying to kill Clifton Slay, but we kind of seen that before in other Pink Panther films where Dreyfus is throughout the film trying to kill Clouseau, and it's just kind of boring. Like there's that whole sequence where you got Clifton Slay and he's sort of paragliding or something like that, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I mean, one thing I will say though is I do like the ending where Clifton Slay meets Roger Moore as Clouseau. That was funny, I'll admit that. And I do like that, the whole scene with Roger Moore as Clouseau. I mean, that is actually a really funny sequence, and it's the best part of the film where you've got Roger Moore there, and he's like, he's smoking a cigar, and she's like, "Oh, honey, you're smoking the wrong end." He's like, "I know, I know that. I know I'm smoking the wrong end. You don't need to tell me I'm smoking the wrong end." And he gets the bucket stuck in his head, and he falls over. And Roger Moore does a very good, Peter Sellers impression because he was friends with Peter Sellers in real life, and I think Roger Moore is very good here. But the film itself is just boring. It's just not that funny. I mean, there are a few funny sequences, but really not that funny. I just the movie is just a drag for me. It really is. I mean, you've got Joanna Lumley back here, and she's not playing the same character as she was in Trail of the Pink Panther. She's playing Clouseau's wife, I think it is, or girlfriend. And Blake Edwards, he actually did use the idea from Romance of the Pink Panther in this film that Clouseau, originally in Romance of the Pink Panther, Clouseau was going to fall in love with this jewel thief, and they sort of done that in this film, the fact that Clouseau was a jewel thief with his wife now, but it doesn't work. I mean, I think if they did Romance of the Pink Panther, they would have done it a lot better, but here they use that idea and it just doesn't work. And the ending of the film, I just think is just I don't care. Like, they get the Pink Panther diamond back or whatever it is, and the ending of the movie, I just think is like, I just don't care about that point. I really don't care. I mean, Mr. Chong does return in that fight in the street earlier on in the film, and he gets knocked out pretty early on in the film, kind of like in Revenge, which is kind of amusing. So, I mean, he's kind of useless in that film. He's useless here as well, which is kind of funny. Since he's this martial arts expert, he gets defeated really easily. But, yeah, I mean, the film is just boring from one end to the other. It just really offers nothing new to the franchise. Like, they really should have changed up the formula here. They should have maybe focused the films on Dreyfus after, after Sellers died. But even then, it probably wouldn't have been the same. And I mean, I'll say this: the soundtrack's good. I mean, the opening title sequence I think is all right, and you got the synthesized version of the Pink Panther theme, which I think is fine. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, the film itself is just who cares? And originally Blake Edwards, what he was gonna do was he was going to pass on the Pink Panther franchise to a new director with each installment, and Curse was going to be his last one, and if Curse was successful, he was going to, pass it on to a new director each film. And, by focusing it on Clifton Slay, it would have been a bit more like the Police Academy films, because it'd be like set in New York with this new character. But like I said, Ted Wass, he's likable and he gives a good performance, but he's just an American version of Clouseau. He's just, the same idiot, the same, humor. He's just a bumbling moron. He's just the American version of Clouseau. And really, at the end of the day, it's like, well, it doesn't, like, just who gives a fuck anymore. So, in conclusion, I don't really have much more to say about Curse. There are some funny sequences in it. Roger Moore's good in it as his cameo, and he took a couple of weeks break from Octopussy, and they do reference that in the film, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I'm going to close off. I'm going to give Curse of Pink Panther 3 out of 10. So yeah.
Thanks, Jack. Well, I guess you like the movie more than I do, which doesn't say much. So, Curse of the Pink Panther. It's definitely the most accurately titled of the series. I'll give it that. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't remember everything about it, but yeah, Ted Wass as Clifton Slay, pointless character. Like Jack said, just the American version of Clouseau, complete rip-off. The film sucks, by the way. I forgot to mention that. And yeah, the humor was just so tired and so bad. Like I just couldn't get into it. I'm probably laughed during Roger Moore's scene. Roger Moore's cameo was appreciated, but otherwise there wasn't much going on here. Some of the returning cast, they're okay, like David Niven and Capucine, but they don't look like they want to be there. Like he's just forcing them to be in there so that there's something that reminds the audience of the original films. But like I said before, without Sellers, it is pointless. It is fucking pointless because you know, I don't really see the point. You know, like you say, never going to recapture the same amount of success and magic that the original ones had because Sellers is no longer around, and it's not their fault. Obviously, you know, they didn't cause his death. You know, he died very tragically, but you know, beating a dead horse. You know, I don't know what Blake Edwards was thinking after the disaster that was Trail. Herbert Lomas Dreyfus, I suppose he's okay, but even he's getting a bit tired now. And moreover, I think the film is too long. It's like nearly 2 hours long, and it drags on for most of its runtime. And it should have been dead on 90 minutes because that would have just helped so much. And the title sequence, not very good, and the music to go with it, I don't really like it. It's like the way it begins, it sounds like a fucking police siren. It goes dun 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 dun. So yeah, it's just very poor. Like it's just very poor filmmaking. I mean, the locations are nice. It's well shot, but there's all these long sequences with Ted Wass, and I mean, bless the guy. He tries his best, but he's no Clouseau. He's no Peter Sellers. So Curse is, well, a disaster, really. I said the only scene I really liked was Roger Moore's cameo. Roger Moore does a pretty good job. Although I don't like the whole idea that he's like Clouseau and he had his like face, like his DNA changed or whatever. I don't know what the fuck that was all about. The story was kind of confusing, but yeah, I really don't like this film. I think it's a terrible mess, and it's just so unfunny, so long, so boring. So I can only be honest and give this movie a well-deserved 1 out of 10. I think it's worse than Trail because at least Trail, even though it's deleted scenes, at least it has Sellers in it, and there's at least something more to gain out of it comedically. But for me, you know, I'm sorry, this is shit. So yeah, we now move on to the final Pink Panther movie that Blake Edwards directed. Released 10 years later in 1993, Son of the Pink Panther, or Shit of the Pink Panther, whatever you want to call it. So I'll hand over to Jack and let him explain why this movie should have been nominated for 11 Academy Awards.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might
including yeah. Yeah, I think the Academy would be on drugs that year if they nominated this film. But yeah, Son of the Pink Panther. Well, as Ollie said, it won Best Picture, so I have to say it's a masterpiece. Yeah, right. God. Son of the Pink Panther. This film, God, again, no, God. Getting a drink. Oh, fuck me. This is just terrible. It really is. I think Son of the Pink Panther is definitely one of the worst of the franchise. I think it's probably the second worst after Inspector Clouseau. It's just terrible. I mean,
30 years.
Roberto Benigne.
30 years Blake Edwards devoted to these movies. Why?
Yeah. I mean, this film came out 10 years after Curse bombed critically and financially. And I think, you know, Blake Edwards was like, right, I'll give it one more stab. I'll give this franchise one last stab and see if it works out. And, you know, unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. You know, the film did really badly, box office wise and critically. And unfortunately, this is his last film that he ever directed, which is such a shame that this is his last film because Son is just terrible. It is just awful. I mean, it really is. I mean, Roberto Benigni, I think he's a good actor, and you know he won an Oscar a few years after he did this film when he did that film Life is Beautiful. So I mean, Roberto Benigni, you know, he proved himself before you know this film, but he's just crap in this as Inspector Clouseau's son, you know, Jacques Gambrelli Jr. And I mean, this film it's just so tired. I mean, the comedy here is just terrible. There really isn't any laughs at all to be found in this film. I mean, the story of this one, I just think is kind of weird. Like you've got Robert Davi as this mercenary, and they're going to kidnap Princess Yasmin, and they want the king to give them money and abdicate from the throne, and I mean, I will say this: Deborah Farentino. I mean, she's really sexy as Princess Yasmin, but the film itself is just boring. I'm snoozing in my chair right here. I'll say this. Herbert Lom, he's good as Dreyfus, and this is his last film. But my God, I mean, the character Dreyfus has just been exhausted here, and I think this is probably the worst film for Dreyfus because he doesn't, get to do much here. Like he doesn't really get irritated or angry or by Jack Gambrelli's actions. Like throughout the film, he's supporting him, and it's like what? I mean, I get what they're trying to do. I guess they're trying to give him some character progression. Okay, maybe by this point, he's no longer insane, and he just wants to move on with his life and all that. And like maybe it would have been a bit tired to have him get frustrated by Gambrelli all over again. But at the same time, that's what makes Dreyfus really funny is that he does go crazy over Cluso and all that. And I mean, it's just a whole idea. This film is bollocks. Like, when did Cluso have a fucking son? And the film itself. I mean, you've got Claudia Cardinale here as Maria Gambrelli, and she actually played the Indian princess in the first film. And I don't know why they couldn't have got back Elk Summer for this film. I mean, maybe she didn't want to do it, but they got Claudia Cardinale here, and I mean, she tries in the film, but the film itself is just crap. And there's this whole love story sort of brewing between her and Dreyfus, and the comedy scenes here aren't funny. Like there's that scene in the van where the guy drops a machine gun and he's like, "Oh, you've been hunting?" And it's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, really?" I mean, I know Cluso was an idiot and so was Gambrelli, but I mean, it's just not funny. And the product placement here is just stupid. Like, you've got that constant Avis van that they keep reusing for the whole film. I mean, if I was Avis, I would be embarrassed to have my brand shown off in this film. And the film itself, like the comedy scenes here aren't funny. Like, there's that whole scene where he's being chased by this car, Gambrelli, and then he goes into the water, and then Dreyfus tries to save him, and then it turns out the water's really shallow, and you can quite clearly see that Herbert Lom's wearing a wetsuit underneath his clothes. And, the film is just boring, boring, boring. I mean, it drags for fucking ages. I mean, it's an hour and 30 minutes long, and it just drags itself along. It really does. It's just so boring. It's just so boring. And I mean, they rip off scenes here from the previous Pink Panther films. I mean, there's that whole scene where Gambrelli comes in disguised as a doctor, and he's trying to help out Robert Davi's character. And they just ripped that whole scene with the laughing gas off from Revenge of the Pink Panther. And there's that scene later on where he's driving the car, and there's this guy in the camel, and he says, "Which way is this place?" He's like, no, he says, "Oh, do you know where this place is?" And he says, "Yes." And then he goes on. It's like you just nicked that joke from Return of the Pink Panther. And the film itself, I mean, there's some decent action scenes towards the end of the movie, and you've got this like mercenary girl who's sort of jealous of the princess, but I mean that just doesn't work. And I don't buy the romance here between Deborah Farentino as Princess Yasmin and Roberto Benigni as Jacques Gambrelli Jr. Like, I mean, there's that whole scene where they tried to strip her clothes off, which well, that was kind of a nice scene, but there's a whole scene where they're in that jail cell and they have sex, and I mean, you don't see it. I mean, they cut afterwards them smoking, and it's like, why would you fall for this guy? He's a fucking moron. He's a fucking idiot. I mean,
It's like Tinder gone mad.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I mean, first of all, Roberto Benigni, he's not a really attractive looking guy, and second of all, Jacques Gambrelli Jr. He's a fucking moron. He's a brain dead idiot, and I just don't buy this romance at all. And the film just drags itself along. I mean, it's so boring. I mean, every time I watch this film, I just, it's really hard to keep myself awake because it just lays there on screen. It lays there on screen. It does nothing for the franchise. It's just terrible. It's just another Pink Panther film. It's just another film in the series, that we didn't need, and it's crap. It's terrible. I mean, you could do a lot worse things than not watch this film, and because I mean, it's so boring. I mean, and not only that, I mean, Robert Davi, he's wasted in here, and there's that whole stupid line he keeps saying throughout the film. That felt good, and like all he said, no, it didn't. Just it's just nothing. It's just so boring. The comedy here is bottom of the barrel. It really is. It's just scraping the bottom of the barrel. That whole stupid sequence as well, when they put him in the van and they're gonna, blow him up in the van, and he falls out of the van and he survives, and it's like, oh, well, whoop-de-fucking-do, hooray! And there's also that stuff in the film where he finds out that he's actually Clouseau's son, and it's just like, oh, it's terrible. And there's that whole sequence as well where he goes to see that belly dancer or whatever it is, and she's like, oh, can you? She's like, oh, could you sign my abdomen or else the guy will cut my nipples off or some shit. It's like, no.
I think they might have actually ripped that off from The Man with the Golden Gun, where he's like, you really do have a magnificent abdomen.
Yeah, except this is nowhere near as good. And yeah, I mean, the film is just a disaster. It really is. I mean, that stuff with Dreyfus as well, where he's in the hospital and Clouseau like knocks into him, and just like, I mean, Dreyfus does nothing in this film. Herbert Lom does nothing in the film as Dreyfus. It's just so embarrassing. It really is. And the ending of the film is crap. But that final action scene in the desert, where Princess Yasmin fights that mercenary. It's like, I don't give a fuck. And the ending where you got Robert Davi, he gets blown up, and then he's like, "Oh, that felt good," and and there's that stupid sequence where, he's pointing the gun at point blank range at Jacques Gambrelli, and he's about to shoot him, and it's like he misses, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what? How could you miss a point blank range? You're a fucking mercenary. How the fuck could you miss a point blank range and you're a fucking mercenary? He's right in front of you and you can't even shoot him. Just fucking well done. It turns out that it shot him in the leg or something like that. I mean, it makes no sense. It's terrible. And the ending of the film, they just rip off Revenge of the Pink Panther, where they're going to give him that decoration and he's dressed up in his gear and he gets his clothes stuck to them, and then he falls over and he's like, that felt good, and that's the end of the film. When it's like, oh god, it's just, oh my lord. I mean, Son of the Pink Panther is just, it's just abysmal. It's just so bad. It's just, I mean, this is just fucking awful. I mean, Blake Edwards, he just shouldn't have bothered with this film. He really shouldn't have bothered. I mean, it's just, I mean, what a great way to celebrate 30 years of the franchise. This is the 30th anniversary Pink Panther film, and yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'm starting to think that this franchise was one of the ones that started a bit of a trend in terms of the beating of the dead horse. Franchises that just don't know when to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Edwards didn't know when to walk away, but he retired after this film. And I mean, one thing I will say, I did kind of like the title sequence for this. I thought it was all right. I did like the Bobby McFerrin a cappella version of the theme, but yeah, the film is just terrible. It's definitely not a film I'm going to rewatch anytime soon. I mean, maybe we might do a rant commentary at it sometime in the future, but for now, it just, yeah, I think it's crap. It's just terrible. So I'm going to close off by giving Oh yeah, by the end. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the ending where it turns out that Dreyfus gets married, and Gambrelli had a sister. Clouseau had a daughter. Like, oh, for fuck's sake, that was just stupid. So yeah, I'm gonna close off by giving Son of the Pink Panther a 1 out of 10. Yeah.
1 out of 10. Well, I'm surprised. I was I really thought there would be a 0 on the end of that one, but apparently not.
Oh, yeah, 10 out of 10. My arse. Yeah.
just for the effort, but oh no, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, I love to tell you that Blake Edwards went out with a bang and ended his franchise on a high, but sadly the truth is the opposite. Oh fuck me! Here we go again. Rant number 3. Oh fuck. Son of the Pink Panther. It's the equivalent of fucking sitting on the toilet and producing the moon. It's the equivalent of raking the leaves and finding like 200 barrels of shit. It's the equivalent of going to the Grand Canyon and just falling and falling and falling and never stopping. I mean, the list goes on, but you get the idea. It's shit. What can I say? I don't know what it was. Blake Edwards seemed to want to go bigger with this one. I think the scope of this one is bigger. I'm not saying it works, but it definitely appears to be sort of big. Well, definitely with the climax, it tries to go bigger. It did remind me a bit of The Living Daylights, and I think I'm not the only person to have said that. It does have the kind of sort of with the setting and the big sort of battle at the end. It's definitely appeals to me that. But oh my god, the story is just terrible. Like, when did Clouseau have a son? I mean, we're talking about an idiot who probably doesn't know what a penis is, doesn't know which end goes in where. How the hell is he going to know how to have sex properly and create a son? I just don't buy it, and I think it's just the writers have pulled it out their arse. And Roberto Benigne, good actor, but I mean, my god, is he terrible in this movie? Just totally miscast, in my opinion. And why the hell does the princess fall for him? I will never know. Like Princess Yasmin or whatever her name is. I mean, she's not a bad character, I suppose, but why she falls for him, I do not know. And also, there's the whole plot about her being like her, is it her mother betraying her or something, or her mother betraying the king, or having an affair?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Where the fuck does that come from?
She has an affair. She has an affair with the general. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get it. It was just pointless, and the action as well was ridiculous. And to be honest, the film just drags. It's just a boring film to watch. And my god, Herbert Lomas Dreyfus, what the fuck is he doing in this movie? There's this whole plot about him marrying, Clouseau's mother, which is just weird. Like as in Clouseau Jr.'s mother. And then he discovers that he has his twin sister. Like, what? It just comes out of nowhere, and I just don't get it. Why, after all this time, after him hating Clouseau so much and trying to kill him, is he now marrying the woman who he impregnated and taking on Clouseau's children? I just find that so stupid. I suppose it was meant to be slightly poetic and ironic, but it doesn't work. It doesn't feel emotionally fulfilling. It's just a stupid. Maybe it was meant to be a joke, but it's a stupid joke, and I just don't get it. It makes no sense. Like most of this film, and like you say, the ending, like when he gets knighted, it's just so stupid. And the last line, that felt good. No, it didn't. I will say it again. No, it didn't. And this movie is just one comedic mishap from the other. The comedy's so done and so tired. I can't stand this movie. I mean, I thought Curse was bad, but Son is even worse. I mean, at least Roger Moore was in the previous one, but in this one, there's no one to save it, and I just think it's a disaster. It's a mess. It's a train wreck. It's a very poor way for Edwards to go out of this series as director, and I think he really should have stopped with Revenge. Sometimes dreams don't come true. I mean, I feel for him. Obviously, this was a passion for him. He wanted to make this series the best it could be, but sometimes you have to quit while you're ahead. And he had a great run. Him and Sellers, they made a great set of movies, but this was just like 3 movies too many by this point, and the audience had given up on the franchise because they knew without Sellers it just wasn't going to work. So I have nothing else to say. It's a disgraceful ending to the original Pink Panther movies, and I never want to see this movie again, so long as my eyes can see anything. So I will give this movie a 1 out of 10. That's all I'll say on that. So, yeah, we now move on to the reboot of the Pink Panther series with the 2006 Pink Panther movie with Steve Martin. Whoa! Let's not all get excited at once. So, yeah, Jack, do give us your opinion on the 2006 Pink Panther movie.
Okay, the Pink Panther 2006, the reboot that everybody wanted. Not. Yeah, Pink Panther 2006. Yeah, that's what I think of this film. It's crap. I mean, I thought Trail and Curse were bad, but this is just taking it to a new level. Yeah, this is just crap. I'm sorry, Steve Martin as Inspector Clouseau. I think he was totally miscast. You know, Steve Martin. I'll say this: he is a funny actor. I mean, he's great in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and Three Amigos, and films like that. But here, he is just awful as Clouseau. He's completely miscast. And this film just didn't need to exist. I mean, who was asking for a reboot to the Pink Panther series? I mean, after the free shit fest that we got after Revenge, did anybody want any more Pink Panther films? I don't think so. And I mean, they waited about 13 years, so I mean, I think they probably thought it'd probably be a good time to revive the series, try it out with a new actor, and I mean, the storyline of this, it's just the same as the first one. It's like, oh, the Pink Panther diamond is stolen and they have to get it back. And, it's crap. I mean, Jason Statham appears in the film as a cameo, and, he's the guy with the Pink Panther diamond ring on, and there's like a football match between France and China or something like that, and he dies and someone nicks the diamond off him. I mean, the supporting cast here, they're fine. I mean, you got, Jean Reno in the film, the famous French actor, and he plays Ponton, which is basically, I guess, their take on Kato. I mean, apparently they were originally going to have Jackie Chan as Kato, but they got rid of that idea because they thought it wouldn't be politically correct. I think that would be much better than having Jean Reno as Ponton. And I mean, you got Beyonce in this film, and Beyonce. I've never been really a big fan of her music, but I mean, she's just really there to, have a pop song, and I mean, she's all right, but I mean, there's just no point having Beyonce in there. The film itself, I just think is boring. Like the slapstick here is it's so tired. I mean, the comedy here is crap. I mean, you got Kevin Kline in this film, and I love Kevin Kline in A Fish Called Wanda as Otto. He's great in A Fish Called Wanda, but here he plays Dreyfus, and he just can't replace Herbert Lom. I'm sorry. I mean, you can't replace Peter Sellers as Clouseau, and you can't replace Herbert Lom as Dreyfus. And I mean, I think Kevin Kline. I don't really understand why he did this film, because he turned down Trail the Pink Panther and Curse of the Pink Panther because he turned down Curse of the Pink Panther and Son of the Pink Panther because he said it wouldn't work without Sellers. So I don't understand why he said, all right, I'll do it. I'll do this film. Maybe because it was a reboot. I don't know. But it's just, I mean, he's not very good here as Dreyfus. I mean, you got this whole thing with Dreyfus throughout the movie that essentially he's trying to get the French Medal of Honor or something like that, and I don't care. I mean, Clouseau in this, like, Steve Martin, like the comedy here is just terrible. Like, there's that whole scene where he's trying to get it on with Beyonce, and he drops the ecstasy pill down the sink, and he ruins the whole bathroom, and he falls through the ceiling. Sorry, falls through the floor, and it's not funny. It's not funny at all. And I mean, there's some really stupid scenes in here, really dumb sequences. Like, I hate that whole, I would like to buy a hamburger. I like to buy a burger. I like to buy the burger. They're trying to recreate the humor of the original films, like, where Peter Sellers as Clouseau would say, "Oh, do you have a chin? Do you have a chin?" And yeah, it just doesn't work. It just does not work in the film, and he gets Jean Renault to attack him several points throughout the movie. You've also got this like love interest in the movie, I think played by Emily Mortimer, and she puts on this French accent, and that just doesn't work. I mean, there was one nice gag, a nice reference to the original Pink Panther film. They got the globe from the first film, and he knocks it over, and it goes into the street and knocks some cyclists over. That was kind of a nice reference, but the humor here is it's so forced. It's so in your face. Like, the comedy here is it's just so tired. And I mean, I also think that Steve Martin, you know he doesn't understand the character of Clouseau. I mean, there is one funny sequence where he says newspaper, and they're in New York, and they fall down the stairs. That was kind of funny. But all the stuff with the hamburgers, like where he's at the airport, and he's like, "What's in your pocket, sir? What's in your pocket?" He's like, "It's a couple of damn burgers, damn burgers." He's like, "I got a damn burger," and the security are sent there, and it's like, it's not funny, and you know, the, the final part of the film I just think is crap, where um Clouseau, like, I mean, he disgraces himself. He disgraces the force, in the airport, and he's taken off the case, and somehow he manages to solve the case because he goes on his computer and he looks at the image, and he sees the Pink Panther diamond in one of the suitcases in the X-ray, and I just think the ending of this film is crap. I mean, I did like the bit where they're in the disguises, and the disguises match the wallpaper. That was kind of funny, and they're asked, and they say, "Oh, who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, we're these dancers," and they do a dance for the guy. That was kind of funny, but most of the humor here is crap. But the ending, I just think, is terrible. The ending where Kevin Kline's Dreyfus, he's going to arrest this Chinese guy because he believes he's the one behind stealing the Pink Panther diamond, and then Clouseau at the end reveals that it was the Russian football trainer who was jealous, who stole the diamond and killed all the players. And I just thought, like, how the fuck can Clouseau figure this out? I mean, that's what I mean by the fact that Steve Martin, he doesn't understand the character of Clouseau. In this film and the next film, Clouseau solves the case. He solves who's behind it. He finds out the mystery. And it's like, you're completely missing the point of the character Clouseau, because Clouseau's an idiot. Clouseau's a moron. He wouldn't be able to solve the case on his own. He'd get all the the case files, all the papers thrown in a paper shredder. Like, he wouldn't be able to solve this case. Clouseau is an idiot. He's a moron. The fact that he solves the case here and he finds out it's a Russian football trainer who stole the diamond, it's like, it's fucking ridiculous. It's just stupid. It's like I said, Steve Martin, he co-wrote the script for this film. He just does not understand the character of Clouseau. He does not understand the character of Clouseau whatsoever. And the ending where he gives the diamond back to Beyonce, it's like, oh, I don't care by that point. And the ending of the film, I think, is terrible, where they go to see Dreyfus, and he gets the Medal of Honor or whatever it is, and he gets in a car and he slams the car door closed, and Dreyfus has got part of his coat stuck in the door, and he's being dragged by the car, and they go to visit him in the hospital, and Clouseau, he accidentally, he releases, part of the bed and it goes out the window into the water, and he's like, "Oh, Clouseau," and that's the ending of the film. And I mean, one thing I will say is that the soundtrack here is decent. The Pink Panther theme I like, and the title sequence isn't bad, but really, this is just terrible. God, this is just so bad. Steve Martin, I think, is dreadful as Clouseau. The comedy here is so forced; it's terrible. Like I said, Steve Martin, he just doesn't understand the character of Clouseau. He really doesn't. It's just stupid. It's just so fucking stupid. And I'm going to close off by giving this a 2 out of 10. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. But fuck this film.
Thanks, Jackie. Oh yeah, one more thing before you move on to me. What did you think of Beyonce in this movie?
Yeah, I said she's all right. I mean, she's okay, but she's just really there for a pop song. But yeah, that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the Pink Panther 2006. Well, nobody asked for a reboot to the Pink Panther, and yeah, it's not very good. For me, this is a tad bit better than the previous movies, but it's not really much of a compliment. Much like what Jack said, the humor here is just really not good. Falls very flat. I mean, maybe there's one or two jokes that were okay, like one or two moments I chuckled, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same without Sellers. I know I keep saying it, but it's true. Steve Martin, I can see why they cast him. I mean, he's a good choice, I suppose. In retrospect, you think, oh, okay, well, he's a comedian, and most of the films he does are comedies. But for this, to recapture the magic that is Clouseau, I just don't think he makes it his own. I think, to be honest, it comes off as more of an impression than his own version of the character, and he doesn't rein it in as much as Sellers did. With Sellers, there was always, when it would go over the top, it would go over the top, and then he would pull back. He would know when to do that. With Martin, he just lets it go out of control, which is a shame. And it's not always his fault. I mean, the script as well doesn't serve him that well. But it's just hard to watch this without imagining Peter Sellers doing it, and that's a problem for me. And I think it was just too much of an arduous task, I think, to reboot the Pink Panther. I just don't think, as well, in this sort of modern day setting of 2006, that I don't know if like the comedy works. Like, I mean, well, it would help if the script was a lot better. And I think Shawn Levy as the director probably was the wrong choice to direct this movie. As for the other cast, I don't mind them. I mean, Jean Reno he's okay, but like you say, he's basically French Kato. That's kind of what he is. And I think more in the second one they have him fight Clouseau, much like how Kato used to do so. And I honestly think Jackie Chan would have been great to include as Kato for this. That might have given these movies something. I think Jean Reno's quite an enjoyable actor, to watch. He's decent. But the part is just thankless. It's a thankless part that doesn't really go anywhere. Much like Dreyfus, played by Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline is all right, but again, he doesn't get too much to do in this one. And it's a shame he didn't come back for the sequel. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about him, really. Beyonce, yeah, like Jack said, she's just in it for the pop songs. I mean, there's no reason to cast Beyonce in a movie unless she's singing. So yeah, much like how she was cast in The Lion King. Emily Mortimer as Nicole. Yeah, I quite like her actually. She's probably the best in the cast. I actually don't mind her French accent. I think it's quite cute, but she's probably one of the more redeemable characters. Although she becomes a love interest as in the next film anyway. But a lot of the sequences of comedy do fall flat. The film does go on. It's a bit of a bore to watch. I kind of think I nearly fell asleep watching it when I was about to review it. And like Jack said, like Clouseau solves the case much too easily. It's too convenient how he solves the case. More in this one, but also in the second one.
Yeah, but not only that, like, would you agree that, like, Clouseau's a moron? Like, there's no way he'd be able to solve these cases, and I just think it's ridiculous. It's like they don't even know how to write the character Clouseau. Like, there'd be no way he'd be able to solve these cases because he's a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. It's basically like they've just decided they don't know how to how to let him solve the case. So they're just like, well, the information just presents itself to him on a screen. It's just lazy writing. And I think to be honest, like usually within the original films, he never really solved the cases anyway. So why does he need to? He doesn't have to solve it. Like, obviously, I know they probably wanted to have the story sort of tie up. Or I mean, at least to my knowledge, with the earlier films, the important thing was not that he solved the case, but that he was on the case, and it was about what he did while he was on the case. And in the end, justice would sometimes be served, and other times it wouldn't. So perhaps they didn't need to. I mean, I guess because they had this whole story arc about him being a buffoon, but again, it was just forced. I felt like they were trying to force it to work and force him to, solve the case. It just, it didn't work for me. It was too rushed and too convoluted. And I mean, Steve Martin's French accent isn't bad. I mean, I'll give him that. It's kind of amusing, but it is more of an impression, like I said, of Peter Sellers than anything else. And it's just such a boring film. I mean, I suppose one other thing I do like is the title sequence and the music. The music and titles are good, and they definitely are reminiscent of the earlier films, which I do appreciate. But I don't think this movie was really necessary. So I guess I'll just kind of wrap it up, and I'll give this movie I'll give it a 4 out of 10 because I appreciate some of the cast and some of there was a couple of sequences that made me laugh, and like I said, the music and titles, but there's a few small things that I like, but it's still very poor. So yeah, 4 out of 10 from me. And now we move on to the final movie of the Pink Panther franchise. At least currently it's the final movie. I don't know if they'll make another one. But it's the last Steve Martin movie as well. The Pink Panther 2, released in 2009, and actually it's the only one that I've seen in the cinema, funnily enough. So I'll hand this over to Jack.
Yeah, the Pink Panther 2. Well, I know Ollie likes this film, but I have to say this is terrible.
Well, I don't like it. I just think it's okay.
Yeah. Pink Panther 2, this is just awful. I mean, I thought the first film was bad, but this really is this takes the biscuit. I mean, it really does. It's terrible. I mean, it's just the same plot as the fucking first movie. Okay, the first film, it was like, right, okay, we'll have Clouseau recover the Pink Panther diamond. And yeah, what's the plot of the second film? Guess. Take a wild fucking guess. You'll be shocked. Yeah, it's just the same plot. It's like this character, the tornado, he goes around the world and he steals things like the Shroud of Turin and stuff like that. And, he's stealing all these artifacts and he steals the Pink Panther. And, I don't care. I really don't care by this point. It's just, the Pink Panther series is really it's worn itself thin. It's just, this is a franchise. It's a dead franchise. It really is a dead franchise by this point, and we really didn't need this film. Like, nobody was asking for a sequel to the Pink Panther, the first one, but because the first one did, pretty well at the box office, even though it was critically panned, they decided, oh, let's do a sequel, and we got this. And I mean, I just think the humor here is even worse than the first film. I mean, they got John Cleese in this as Dreyfus, and I will say John Cleese is better here as Dreyfus. He captures more of the sort of, angry side of Dreyfus, being frustrated with Clouseau. But at the same time, the film is just, just so boring. Like, there's that whole, gag at the beginning where you got those, like, French mercenaries or something that come in and they, knock out Clouseau, and And like it turns out the password is hamburger, or and it's so terrible. It's so fucking terrible. I mean, the whole movie is just so boring. I mean, you got this, dream team in this. You got Andy Garcia as Vincenzo Scaluppi Brancaleone, and he says, "Oh, and your name?" And it's just, I mean, Andy Garcia, he's a good actor. I mean, I liked him in Godfather 3 and The Mule, and it's been a lot better for, The Untouchables, and he's been in a lot better films than this garbage. And I kind of feel bad for the supporting cast here because they're wasted. I mean, you got Alfred Molina in this film, who's in Spider-Man 2, and I mean, the cast here are just fucking wasted. They are wasted beyond belief. And you got fucking Jeremy Irons in this film. There's that whole sequence where they go to that guy's country house and they accuse him of being the tornado or some shit like that. And the film it fucking drags. I mean, the first one dragged, but this one I think drags, even more so. It's so fucking, tedious to sit through. It really is. I mean,
there's sorry to interrupt. There's also the inclusion of the Jean Reno's sons who, for some reason, turn up out of nowhere.
yeah, that was weird. I'll get to that. I mean, there was one funny line in the film where Clouseau is talking to the Asian guy, and he said, no, the Japanese guy, and he's like, let's get something to eat. And he says, oh, I suppose you'd be wanting sushi, my little yellow friend. That's a nice reference to the old films, because, Clouseau in the old films would say my little yellow friend. But there's this annoying character throughout the whole movie who keeps going on about political correctness. She's like, oh, you can't say that women are sexy, Inspector, and all this stuff. And I'm like, bitch, like, fuck off. Like, seriously. Like, it's so annoying to have this, like, character go on about political correctness. It's just terrible. It really is. It's just fucking... it's just awful. It really is. And the film itself is, like I said, it's just a fucking snooze fest. And they have this love story between Clouseau and Emily Mortimer, and like there's that bit where he's talking to Andy Garcia, and he's his character, and he's trying to Andy Garcia is attracted to her, and he's trying to get him away from her by saying, oh, she's drab, she's not for you. And then when they're on the like private jet, he Andy Garcia's character, he tells that to Emily Mortimer, and it's like I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, the soundtrack here, I'll say, is decent. This, all the stuff here is Jean Reno is just I don't care about. Like, I mean, we see that his his two sons come with him, and we see that he's thrown out of the house, and he goes to stay with Clouseau. And there's that, like, they try to copy that fight sequence from the Pink Panther Strikes Again. Like, they have like Clouseau fight the kids and trash the whole apartment, and he's saying about the element of surprise and all this stuff, and it's not funny. It's just really not funny. There's also that stupid scene with the Pope in the film, or as Clouseau would say, the Pip. That whole stupid scene with the Pope where Clouseau dresses up as the Pope and he goes to the balcony and he falls from the balcony and he's hanging on, and it's like, I don't fucking care. Just, fucking end already. The movie just drags itself along, and and then when we find out that the tornado is being, he's dead, and they get all the artifacts back, and the shrouded Turin, and they get every artifact back except for the Pink Panther diamond. I just, I don't care about that stuff. And the ending of the film, I think, is crap. Where Clouseau, he can't join the dream team because he says that he suspects something else is going on, and the real thief is still out there, and I just think the ending of this, again, it's the same problem I had with the first film, is that Clouseau fucking solves the case. Like, he finds out that Indian woman, she's the one who's stolen the Pink Panther diamond, and we see at one point she shoots it, and he says, "Oh, don't worry, that's just a fake. I changed the real Pink Panther diamond." And he explains how he finds out again, and it's like, Clouseau, he's a moron. Okay, he's not like Poirot. Like, Poirot at the end of each Poirot film, he explains how he found out who the murderer was or whatever it is. You know, that makes sense because Poirot's a smart guy, but, you know, Clouseau, he's a fucking idiot. He's a moron. And here, they're like, oh, well, you know, Clouseau, you know, they tell us how I figured out the case. And I'm just like, you know, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit. And the movie is just, you know, snoozing in my chair. And the ending of it, I just think is crap again. You know, Steve Martin, they don't understand the character of Clouseau. He's a moron. He's an idiot. He wouldn't be able to solve a case on his own. You know, he wouldn't be able to flipping go over to the shop and buy you a packet of biscuits. That's how stupid Clouseau is. You know, he probably, you know, come back with like, you know, something else. You know, I mean, that's how thick Clouseau is. That's how stupid he is and bumbling. And here he solves the case. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, you know, you're not Miss Marple. You're not Poirot. You know, you're not Sherlock Holmes. You shouldn't be able to solve the case. You're a fucking idiot. You know, in the Peter Sellers films, he never solved the case. You know, he just stumbled upon success. He stumbled upon it accidentally. You know, he didn't, you know, solve it for his own ingenious thinking. Like they even like even the characters here say, like Andy Garcia and the other detectives, including Alfred Molina, at the end say, "Oh, you know, Clouseau, he's smarter than all of us. You know, all of our brains put together." But don't tell him that. It's like, well, if that's the fucking case, then why is he such an idiot in the rest of the film? You know, if you're going to make Clouseau smart, just make him fucking smart. I mean, he's not Clouseau if they're making him smart. You know, he's a fucking idiot. And the ending of this film, I just think is crap. Like where you got, you know, Clouseau marrying Emily Mortimer, and then you got, you know, Alfred Molina in a tutu, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? You know, it's not funny. And the ending I just thought was abysmal, where they go off and they're married, and it's like, well, really, that's how we're going to end the series. And you know, overall, I just think it's a terrible film. And you know, I really hope this is the last Pink Panther film because I don't think we need any more. I mean, apparently MGM are going to do another Pink Panther film, but oh Jesus, I really hope they don't. I mean, they were saying about doing one last year. They were in talks about doing another Pink Panther film, but yeah, I mean, in conclusion, the film is crap. I hate it. The humor is so forced. It just drags itself along for all 90 minutes of its runtime. I just sat there bored out of my fucking mind, and it's just terrible. So I'm gonna close off by giving the Pink Panther 2 a 1 out of 10. So yeah.
Well, that was a very interesting defense. Lol. I'm joking. Yeah, the Pink Panther 2. Look, it's it's the last film that was the most recent film, and it was 12 years ago. And yeah, the Pink Panther 2, I mean, I'm amazed they really got a sequel to the first one, to be honest. As I said, I guess I do have a sort of a mild soft spot for it because I did see it in the cinema, and I didn't mind it when I first saw it. I didn't think much of it, but I was entertained briefly, and that's kind of how I felt when I rewatched it. I just thought, well, there are a couple of funny things in here, but nothing major. It's not a film I'd watch again, but I actually thought it was a wafer thin improvement over the first one. I know the story is very similar. I kind of like the idea of the dream team, and it's a good idea, but they don't really do anything with it. The other characters just seem kind of secluded in the background. I mean, and you know, the mystery as to who stole the diamond. I don't know if it's that hard to work out because the film keeps kind of giving you hints that it is the woman. I forget her name, the Indian woman. That every so often they'll cut to a reaction from her, and it's like, oh well, you're just giving it away now. So I don't think the script is very good. They didn't write the mystery very well. Clouseau actually has a bit of a love story in this one. He falls in love with Nicole. Him and Nicole get married at the end, actually, which is surprising considering how much of an idiot he is. But that was one nice thing I'll say. I did like the ending when he got married. I suppose it was a good way to sort of bookend the franchise. But yeah, it's hard to believe anyone would marry him, to be honest. Steve Martin, he's okay in this. I mean, well, he's pretty much the same as he is in the first one, so I can't say too much more. He's still hamming it up quite a lot and doing his best Peter Sellers impression, but he's doing his job, I suppose. But yeah, it's just clear that these movies are not working without Sellers, and the film is a little bit of a drag in places. It does go on a bit. Like Jeremy Irons is nice to have him in it. Alfred Molina is good, although yeah, it was a bit weird seeing him at the end dressed in a tutu for like no reason. Like I can't deny there were a couple of amusing sequences like that. I did like. Can't name them off the top of my head, but I had a couple of chuckles. So and it was a more enjoyable ride than the first one. It didn't drag as much as the first one for me. Jean Reno is kind of wasted in this one. He doesn't get too much to do. His sons come into this one for no reason, and they do the classic sort of Kato fight with his sons. It's a lot of the same. It's just more of the same, to be honest. It didn't anger me as much as it did with Jack. But the franchise is definitely it's dead. Why they're thinking of resurrecting it, I don't know. And if it means that they're going to do it with Steve Martin again, then I don't know if there's much point in that either. It's not a very good film. Emily Mortimer's performance is good though, and there's obviously like a love triangle going on as well with the Francesco character. I don't know his full name, but yeah, and he sort of fancies Nicole, and Clouseau pretends to call Nicole drab and disgusting or whatever because he didn't want Francesco to fall in love with her and stuff. But I quite like Emily Mortimer's performance, and her French accent is good. I think she's actually better in this film than she is in the first one. The scene with the Pope, you could argue it's just kind of insult to injury. I think parts of it were okay, but it went on too long. It was a sequence that just kind of lingered on. So I think overall this film, there isn't much to it, and the climax is just so rushed and it's just weightless, and there's nothing like the other three world detectives are kind of fumbling around like buffoons and chasing the Indian woman. And John Cleese is Dreyfus. Well, I think he's better than Kevin Kline. I'll give him that. But he doesn't get to do much either, other than yell at Clouseau. And yeah, like the hamburger joke as well is not great. I quite like the title sequence and the music. They're good, but overall there isn't much to this film. Even though I don't hate it, I still think that it's not enough to be a significant improvement. It's a wafer thin improvement, but it's barely. Barely. I think the franchise is well and truly dead. This movie did not make enough of an impression to carry on, and I'm not surprised that it did very poorly. So yeah, sorry. I will give this movie a 5 out of 10. Maybe that's generous, but at the same time, I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it had a couple of good sequences, but it was still poorly made, and it could have been done. It could have been done a lot better. But yeah, so that's that. Really, that's the reflection on the Pink Panther movies. Well, the crappy ones for the most part. So yeah, I don't know what else there is to do unless you want to do a ranking, Jack.
Yeah, I was going to do a ranking and then our rating out of 110 since there are 11 movies. So, I mean, I've already written my list down, so I'll go first.
Go ahead.
So 11 would be Inspector Clouseau at, well, I put it as minus a zillion, but it's realistically Inspector Clouseau, it's a 0 out of 10. Number 10 would be Son of the Pink Panther, that's 1 out of 10. Pink Panther 2, then at number 9, that would be 2 out of 10. Yeah. And, sorry, then that'd be 1 out of 10. Then number 8 would be the Pink Panther 2006, that'd be a 2 out of 10. Then 7 would be Trail of the Pink Panther, 3 out of 10. 6, Curse of the Pink Panther, 3 out of 10. Number 5 would be the original Pink Panther from 1963 at a 8 out of 10. Then Revenge of the Pink Panther at number 4, that'd be an 8 out of 10. The number 3, A Shot in the Dark at 9 out of 10. Number 2 would be The Pink Panther Strikes Again at 10 out of 10. And number 1, The Return of the Pink Panther at 10 out of 10. So overall, out of 110, that's 54 out of 110. So not great. Not great. I mean, that's about half the points. So yeah, I think it's a very mixed bag of a franchise. I think it's a very, very mixed bag. There's 5 films in there that I think are great. 6 films I think are shit. So yeah, I mean, yeah, to me the franchise really ended after Revenge. I don't really consider any of the other films about Peter Sellers canon, but overall as a franchise it's a mixed bag. But if you just take it as the Peter Sellers films, it's a fantastic franchise. But yeah, 5 films in there I like and 6 that I think are shit. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jack. I think that's a good summing up of this franchise. As for me, the first movie I give an 8 out of 10. Shot in the Dark, 9 out of 10. Inspector Clouseau, 0 out of 10. Return of the Pink Panther, 10 out of 10. Strikes Again, I give a 9 out of 10. Revenge, I gave an 8. Well, I did give it a 7, but I bumped it up to an 8 out of 10. Trail, I give a 2 out of 10. Curse and Son, I both give a 1 out of 10. This first Steve Martin movie, I gave a 4 out of 10, and then the second one a 5. So overall, it adds up to 57 out of 110. So it's not much more than you, but yeah, it's roughly about halfway. Like you said, the franchise is a very mixed bag. It's sort of like the first half of it is really good, then the last half is really shit for the most part. Even though I don't mind the second Steve Martin one, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. I currently own the Sellers box set, which unfortunately includes Trail, and then I own Return. So I'm just keeping that set. I'm not gonna buy any other ones. I see no point. It's pointless. It's a good franchise, and I'm glad that you introduced me to it and recommended me review the movies. Even though I didn't have to review the non-Sellers ones, I still thought, you know what, just to be a completist, I'll do it. And I'm glad I experienced them once, but some of the movies I wouldn't touch again with a barge pole. But I'll definitely revisit the Sellers movies, and Trail doesn't count. So yeah, and Inspector Clouseau I would not revisit either. So yeah, pretty much all the Peter Sellers movies where he's actually in them properly are the only ones worth watching. The rest of them can go suck ass or dick or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my feeling, and it's like we said. I mean, if Sellers had remained alive, we would have got more movies with him, and perhaps the series would have gone on to be stronger. But no, it wasn't me. Sadly.
By the way, did you rank them? I think you gave your ratings, but did you rank it?
Okay. As for a ranking, obviously Inspector Clouseau is at the bottom. Then it would be Son of the Pink Panther, then Curse of the Pink Panther, then the 2006 movie with Steve Martin, then the probably the second one, Pink Panther 2. Then it would probably be the first one, I think, or possibly Revenge. I can't remember. I think I'll say the first one, and then Revenge, and then bollocks! I've forgotten which one I'm at.
Shot in the Dark.
Shot in the Dark. Thank you. Then Strikes Again, and then Return. Yes, that's my ranking. Sorry, I know I have a video of it. I didn't write down my list.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It's an interesting franchise, and I mean you could argue the earlier movies are like the pinnacle of comedy movies. Like, I mean, of course, there's other things like To Be or Not to Be and various other comedy classics, but the Pink Panther movies, the earlier ones, are definitely definitely ones to treasure, and obviously not only for Peter Sellers, but just for the comedy genre in general, because comedy is not the easiest genre to put on film, and it's all dependent on the script and the actors. I mean, if they can make it work, then you've got comedy gold. And it's, I mean, you know, even if all the movies didn't work, they tried their best. What were the earlier films? But it's a good example of what of how to make and how to not make a comedy movie, and to also know your limitations as well. So I think there's several lessons that young aspiring filmmakers can take away from the Pink Panther movies. I mean, that's my kind of closing thoughts on it, and I hope to God they don't resurrect it, because I think it's been done to death now. So MDM, stop. Just leave it alone now. Don't ask Steve Martin to come back. Just leave it as it is. It's done.
Yeah, well, I might not stop them making another film, but yeah, I mean, they're in talks of doing one, but I agree with you. I think they should just leave it alone. I mean, they've exhausted this franchise enough, you know. Yeah.
If they did it again, like, do you think it would be like another reboot, or would it be like a third Steve Martin movie?
Apparently, what they're planning to do, and I don't think it's a very good idea, but they're going to have like a hybrid movie, so it'll be like animation meets live action. So, yeah. Don't know if that'll work, but
not with the Pink Panther, I don't think. I mean, there are the cartoons as well, so we've always got those. Even though I think the movies are probably better, but the earlier films.
Yeah, the earlier movies. I mean, forget about the Steve Martin and the ones after Sellers died, but yeah.
Yeah, let's just say that those are the hybrid movies.
Yeah, the movies that don't exist.
So yeah. Anyway, I'd give the schizophrenia of the Pink Panther minus 2 zillion out of 10. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about the franchise. Is there anything you want to add, Jack, before we call it a night?
I'll just have to ask, do you have a claim?
Yeah, and actually, rest in peace, Peter Sellers. And I think he deserves a round of applause. You know, what a amazing man.
Yeah, great comedian.
Yeah.
And last year was 40 years since he passed away. So yeah,
if he'd have lived, like, how old would he have been? Like, obviously, he may not have lived to today's age, but what would he have been, like, in his 90s or something?
Well, if he was still alive today, he'd be like late 90s, because he was born 1925. So he'd be about 96, 95 if he was still alive today. But unfortunately, never happened. But yeah.
No, he died far too young.
Yeah. 56 when he passed away. So.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's similar age to my granddad. He died when he was about, I think, 58, 59. So it's far too young to die.
Yeah. Of a heart attack, sadly, as well. So.
No. But anyway, enough about that. We will probably call it there. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And I know there were a couple of guys in the live chat who wanted to join us. I do apologise. We hadn't arranged for more than two of us to do this one, but maybe in the future we'll invite more people on. Obviously, if Jack, if you're okay with that as well. But yeah, so yeah, that's it. We'll probably be back with another commentary on the the Pink Panther movies soon. I don't know which ones we haven't done. I think we've done most of them. Did we do Revenge? I think we did. Or maybe we haven't.
Yeah. No, we haven't done a commentary on that. No, we haven't done a commentary on Shot in the Dark either, or the first one. So,
yeah. So we'll have to see about that. See when we can do those. But thank you all for listening, and have a good evening. And yes, thank you very much to Jack for joining. And until next time, I'm Mr. Thomas 11. This is Jack the Film Fanatic. See you soon. Bye for now.